Hey, what's up, guys?
There he is. What's up, buddy?
Man, I lost track of time. Mom and Dad just showed up and caught me off guard, and I was like, my wife said, "What tonight?"
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Another live episode of the live show, Dog Talk West Virginia. I'm your host, Shane Rains. Thank you all for joining us. You see Chris Schaefer right here beside me. We've got the live crew standing by, ready to go. Let's see if we can't bring in a couple of the rest of the crew. We got Chase standing by via phone and Brad West. Let's see if we can't get everybody in here. I hope you all are doing wonderful this weekend. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and had a great weekend. Of course, it's pretty cold out there, so I know we're all waiting on some better weather for sure. Brad, Chris, what's up, guys?
What's up, Shane?
All right, can you hear me now? I think I muted you all just for a second. Sorry about that.
What's
Yeah,
up, Shane?
what's up?
Let's try that again. All right. Man, exciting episode tonight, guys. Man, I hope y'all had a good weekend. Good weekend so far?
Good weekend. Expensive weekend.
Yeah, we saw where you were, man. You're up a little Stonewall action this weekend. So awesome, brother. Man, that's good. The goal is we can't get in the doghouse. I was sharing a little post. It was a dude a grown man crawling out of a doghouse. We don't want to be that guy. So for sure. I'm glad everybody had a great weekend thus far. And if you are just first tuning in, this is Dog Talk West Virginia. I'm your host, Shane Rains. Like I said, we cover everything bass fishing in and around West Virginia and around the tri-state area. We got a lot of exciting things in the works. If you haven't caught a couple of the last few episodes, Chris Malone was on. Ryan Davidson was on. Of course, Ryan's just wrapping up pro circuit. Insane weekend, guys. Insane weekend. We had a rookie win bass event. Rookie wins a bass event. Skeet Reese comes out of nowhere. Insane day comes back. Dude, it's been an exciting weekend. What do y'all think?
Oh, heck yeah, it has. I really enjoyed just watching a lot of the live stuff this weekend, man. With all the weather that's been going on, dude, I enjoyed watching them jack some big old green fish down south.
Yeah,
I
man.
agree, man. The Bass Live it's really changed the sport. It's really made it fun for everyone to sit at home and kind of live through those guys. It was really nice.
Yeah, man. It definitely took on a little bit different. Man, it was just different. You know what I mean? It was the excitement level. We had two different lives going on. Bass did a phenomenal job. Here they are on FS1, Fox Sports 1. So, dude, it's insane. Absolutely insane. But let's see. We're trying to load up some comments. They're going to catch up, hopefully. But hopefully everybody's tuning in. We are testing this out just a little bit differently, trying to stream straight to that event. So we're hoping that went through okay. So we're gonna find out. So if anybody can monitor, Chase, if you happen to pull something up, or Brad, if you see that, let me know. Make sure that stream's popped up. But we got an exciting episode tonight. Regardless, exciting episode tonight. Mr. Jody Queen's in the house. What more can we say about this guy? He has had quite the successful last, man, I don't even know what the run is, 4 or 5 years in a row now. Incredible resume. So we can't wait to get him on. So we're really not going to waste too much time on that. We're gonna go and bring him in. Let's see if we can get him pulled up right quick. Mr. Jody Queen, thank you for joining us, brother. Welcome to Dog Talk, West Virginia.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
Man, I know I'm good.
What's up, Jody?
Hi, bro. How's it going?
Well, man, we're excited to have you on here for one. West Virginia angler, Mr. Blue from Bluefield, West Virginia. Man, so we're excited to have you on. Kind of the hometown crowd. I can't even tell you how many people have reached out to me, man, since the Malone episode, Chris and Ryan saying, hey, man, especially after the last couple of weekends, what went down at the 10, saying, hey, you got to get Jody on here, man. We got to get Jody on. I said, well, I agree. We got to get Jody on. Luckily, your schedule freed up enough, man. We appreciate your time, dude. How you feeling this week? I mean, you've had a week off, man.
Yeah, I'm just getting some stuff together, getting ready to head back out on the road. I'm gonna go down and fish the Hobie BOS on Watts Bar, and I'm just getting a few things together, doing some stuff to the boat, and getting ready.
Nice, man. And that's it. Watts Bar's coming up. Next weekend, and then you're going straight to Murray, aren't you?
Yeah. I'll be leaving there. I'll come back home for a day, and then I'll be heading straight to Murray.
Awesome. Well, let's see. I did pull up. It looks like everything is streaming in fine. It won't pull up the comments here, so we're going to kind of follow along. Tommy Colvin, what's up, brother? Another Ohio river rat up there. Man, thank you all for tuning in. We're glad that you are here. Jody, man.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot. We know you've been on multiple podcasts, multiple live streams over the last few years. You've got to share your experiences on the water. Chris, I know you've enjoyed watching along with me on Jody's journey and putting on a clinic across the nation. Doesn't matter what fishery that you're on, man. It's insane, dude. And it's not.
Just a hillbilly that likes to fish, man. There's a bunch of us out there. I'm just happen to be the one that's doing it right now. So. There's a bunch of them that fish the Greenbrier and all the clubs here in the locals. And man, if they ever decide they're going to do it full time, they better watch out because there's some good sticks from West Virginia. I can tell you that right now.
Yes, they are, man. We've talked about a lot on here. Chris will agree, man. We fight some pretty tough conditions and tough bites around here a lot of the year. And it makes us very, very tough anglers. I think you'll agree. Yep. Well, man, before we get going, go ahead.
I said, well, we got tough lakes. It produces tough anglers, man.
Absolutely, man. It's insane. We always talk, you struggle to catch a 12-inch fish a lot of times, but then you go out of state and it's like, man, when you can get bites and start piecing it together, you learn. And man, we usually have a guy that shows up, so that's pretty cool. But man, I'm going to let Chris kind of take off with it here in just a second. I know he's got a great starting point, and anyone joining in, Jody Queen. Accomplished angler. If you've never heard that name, get out of the dark because you're missing out on the journey this guy's had. But drop us a comment, drop us a question. This is all about us. Hometown Angler. He's going to answer your questions tonight. Any questions you may have, you want a tip or trick. Jody is a wealth of knowledge, so we're going to pick his brain tonight. So we're excited. But Jody, if we all know you're an angler, bass guy. What do we not know about you, man? Give us just a couple of things we don't know about you.
Well, I'm before I started doing this full time, I was a full-time artist, and I'm a vice president of an art gallery in Bluefield, West Virginia. We're a 501c3, and we kind of help local artists we're kind of a springboard for local artists to get out, and we teach them how to present their work and get them in touch with shows and stuff. I run up and down the coast for about 4 or 5 years doing art shows before I started fishing full time. And that's what I do. I live in the gallery, and I'm a musician too. I play guitar and banjo and a little bit of mandolin. And my whole family's musical. They play bluegrass and country and
and I
tell you everything, man.
We might, maybe not right this second, but we might try to talk Jody into playing us just a couple little strums on that guitar, man. I heard a guitar playing in the background when we were just kind of setting up and checking audio, and I'm looking around at all the feeds and I don't see anything going on. I said, dude, who's playing that? Jody. And he pulls up that guitar and he's strumming along, and Chase is quiet, and we're just kind of rocking out with you, man. It was killer, dude. But Chris, man, take it away, dude. I know you got a great starting point. Jody, you're going to like this, and we're ready to pick your brain. So, Chris, take it away, brother.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So yeah, I talked to Shane before the show, and wanted to, knowing that you're going to be on, you've done probably 25 interviews, it seemed like, over the past year or two on the tournaments you've had a lot of success in. So thought we'd take a little bit different approach because, like Shane mentioned, he was getting a lot of requests to have you on the show. And I think that kind of speaks to where we're at right now in kayak fishing. I mean, we legitimately have Jody Queen fans. We legitimately have Matt Ball fans, Russ Snyder's fans. Those people are out there now. I mean,
they are.
They're actually rooting for certain individuals at each of these events, and I think that's really, really neat. And I want you to here in a minute speak to that, but because of that, I wanted to try to take a little bit different approach to some of the questions we asked tonight. We didn't get here overnight. It's been a lot of work getting here, and I wanted to kind of talk to you about because you have a lot of people reaching out, asking you to be on the show. They see where you're at today, but it took a lot of work for you to get to where you're here today. And when I started going back, I started reviewing some of the stats that we have access to on Tourney X. And I want to rewind it all the way back to the first time I met you was at the 2016 KBF National Championship. So I recall we were kind of, and I don't know if you can see the picture that Shane threw up on the screen here, but there's a purpose to the picture. I'm trying to make a point here. And you're the guy in the background right now. That's Jody Queen back there in the back, not really out front. You haven't made a lot of noise in the sport yet.
Yep, there he is.
So, I mean, you had
I was hiding.
You had some local wins, but on the national scene, you really hadn't exploded. Your name wasn't out there yet. And going back to the first time I met you at the 2016 National Championship, I remember I was standing in the back with a bunch of the MSKA guys. At that time, everybody was kind of standing with the clubs they came with. And I remember seeing you were kind of back there among us with Brian Aliff. I want to say Tony Bryant, but I didn't see his name on the list of anglers that fish that event. So I don't know if he was just there or if I'm misremembering.
Yeah, we see him hanging out there.
Yeah.
We saw he's hanging out there. I can't remember if he fished or not that event.
Yeah. So point
I can't remember.
Is I remember talking to you a little bit, Jody, and I probably don't got to remind you, you didn't have a real good event that time.
No, I didn't.
I could tell first time I ever met you. I could just tell by the way you were talking how competitive of a person you were, and how much it was eating at you from the results you had that weekend on the water. And so I started going back and doing some research of my own. And after that tournament in 2016, you had some struggles at the national level throughout 2017. You did really well at the local trail. Okay, MSKA.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, and what I want to hear as a fan of yours is 2017 at the national level seemed like, you fished, from what I could find, quite a few KBF events. Kind of transition, moving into 2018, you really just something clicked. I'm curious to know what that was, because it just seems like you put something together and you haven't slowed down since. And so I know it took me a while to say all that, but I just wanted to kind of lead into what happened.
Well, there was
that time.
There was a lot happening, Chris. Toward the end of 2017. I mean, I know by 2016 year I won the Open on the New River, which gave me my first real boat. That's when I won the ATAC 140 there at the New River. I mean, and Brian and I, we finished 1 and 2 on that, I think, and we just could do no wrong on that tournament. And that was my first kind of big victory on the KBF side. But, as I moved on, what happened was mostly is my equipment changed. I got, a really good boat. I got a sponsorship through Torpedo later in that year, in 2018, I think. It might have been 2017. I started learning electronics, and I've never really traveled to fish any lakes. I grew up on the rivers around here. I've always been a river fisherman, and I just didn't know really what I was doing on the lake. Growing up, I'm originally from Wayne County, and the only lake that we had there was either Beach Fork or East Lynn, and I called them the Dead Sea. But I always ended up in the creeks like 12 Pole or Mud River, or I always come down here and fish the New River every chance I got. So I wasn't really knowledgeable about electronics or anything like that. But I started fishing as many of the KBF tournaments as I could, in 2018, and I got to talking to people like Ron Champion and some of the guys, Jason Broach and Jay Wallen and Corey Dreyer and all those guys, man, who had some experience in the boat world with electronics and stuff, and that really helped me out a lot, because I got to hear, by making it to the 10, when you get in that house, it's just a wealth of information, and you basically just take notes in a situation like that. And so it helped me being there, and then being able to apply it in the following years. I told my wife, I said, I had won enough local in a couple of the KBF tournaments I'd placed okay in, and I put back all that money and just paid all of my tournament fees that I could get, that year. I paid them all ahead of time. So I had all my tournament fees paid, and the rest was just working and coming up with money to get, for the trip. And I can remember Brian and I saving ketchup packets and putting them in a glove box and sleeping at the ramps. And I mean, it was a journey, man. But I mean, I wouldn't trade none of it for anything. But, as far as knowledge of the sport and the way it's been growing, there are so many guys out there, with so much knowledge that are willing to share. And if anybody really wants to get into the sport, I'm one of them. I will tell you that I've never been a person that really held back, unless it was going to immediately harm, the outcome of a tournament I was fishing. I would never hold back information. I always give people information. I want people to catch fish, and giving somebody information in a tournament doesn't mean that they're going to catch the fish. I'm pretty confident in, what I've learned, and I'm just going to go out there and fish and try to do the best I can. And it's been working okay for me. It doesn't seem to have hurt me, sharing the knowledge like I have been. So I'm going to keep doing it until I notice it's hurting me. But, having those sponsors like Torpedo put me in a totally different level. I could cover way more water. I could, it was just an amazing tool. I had a good boat at that time. I mean, the Wilderness 140, man, that was a great boat. And then I got a bona fide sponsorship, and that's another great boat. And I had the Torpedo on it, and then I got my electronics right around 2017, 2018. I started getting on my electronics and started learning about them. All those little things that you learn along the way, man, they put you in a place where you're better able to compete. When I see these guys, and you was talking about the year that didn't do real good, I had Jay Wallen and AJ McCorder and a couple other guys sitting off a point, and it was so windy that there was just, there's no way that Brian and I could stay out there in our little cousas, and they were holding position out there. They had spot lock, they had pedal drives, and and when you see that, you're like, okay, well, here's a situation. I know that I'm going to have to do something to be able to compete with those guys, because those guys are winning. And if you're into it and want to pursue it, you look for that thing that's going to make you be the best that you can be. So I have no problem, with bow mounted trolling motors or, 2 motors on a boat. None of that stuff bothers me, because it's the evolution of the sport. And there's always going to be these clubs that are not going in that direction, and places for people who don't like that sort of thing, who want to paddle all the time, which I have nothing against that. there's always going to be clubs and places for those people to go to. But this sport at the level that I want to be and where this sport is going right now, it's evolving into a place where if it doesn't keep evolving, we're not going to attain those sponsors. They're not going to start, keep pumping money into this. The longer we keep this alive and keep expanding on what we're doing and have our social media presence and stuff like that, that's what's going to get the money flowing into these organizations. We got 3 series now. We got the BASS, we got Hobie, we got KBF. And, when you and I started, dude, there wasn't nothing like it.
No.
There was no place to go where you could say, hey, man, I'm going to make a living at this. It was all local and there just was nothing out there. So I'm excited about where we're going. I can't fish 5 different trails. Right now I'm doing good to fish 2. So, the more the merrier. There's enough out there to keep me busy all year. I'm on the road. I'm on the water 265 to 300 days a year. I'm busy all the time. So I love it.
So Jody, let me ask, based off what you say there, is there a piece of advice or information you received along the way that you can think of off the top of your head that has helped you develop the consistency that you're starting to see now? Again, I quoted some stats back in the day. You were winning some tournaments here and there, but now it seems pre-2018, the consistency has totally changed. Now you just are expected to kind of be in the money every tournament. And I know it's a lot of pressure on you, but is there a piece of advice you received along the way, or what was it that kind of helped, drive you to that next level?
Yeah, there's a couple things. It's just an accumulation of things that I found out, doing this is, one is focus. When you let other people or other things that are going on around you get in your head, it subtracts from concentrating on what you need to be doing. Focus is huge. I started letting the fish tell me what they wanted. That's a huge thing. And just, things like that. It's just an accumulation of things like that's got me to where I'm at right now. And I expect myself to do really good. I have high expectations for myself, but I also know that it's indeterminate. There's no guarantee that you're going to go out there every time and smash them. It just doesn't happen. But if I'm in my comfort zone, I'm comfortable with a lot of different baits. Everybody knows me for throwing a jackhammer. I know, but I'm really comfortable with spinner baits, plastics. Get us familiar with as many baits as you can, top waters, because there's a time and place for all of that. And the more comfort and confidence you have in those baits, the more consistent you're going to be when you're going out on the trail and you're doing these things. If I can switch from a wobble head jig with a creature bait trailer on it to a buzz bait, I'm better off rather than being pigeonholed for just throwing one thing. So jackhammers work well, but I'm not opposed to throwing other things. And I think, having that open-minded focus, you'll do well doing stuff like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't want to interrupt anybody, Chris, or anyone. We do have a couple questions, and if you are just first now joining us, we're about 25 minutes in. This is Mr. Jody Queen, Bluefield, West Virginia native right here. A lot more than just an angler. We're kind of talking about that, diving into that and more. So thank you all for tuning in. If you have a question, drop them in the comments right now. Drop Jody a question. We're going to dive into about as much info as that you all want. We never go over an hour, kind of what we try to stay to. So share this video. We tried a little bit different setup as far as scheduling this live. I'm not confident everything went through. I think there's a couple posts floating around, but drop your comment, drop a question. We're going to try to answer those. But I got a couple questions for you, Jody, already in the comments, and I think this goes right along with what Chris and you were kind of pinging off each other with. Greg Kupner, and Greg, you're going to have to line me out on the pronunciation of your last name, brother. But Greg, West Virginia kayak anglers, he's putting in a ton of work. They got an awesome year scheduled. But his question is, they got a ton of new kayak anglers, West Virginia kayak anglers this year. What's the best tip you have for someone just getting started? And this could easily roll right into Corey Patrick's question, and that is, how do you balance life? Just life in general, especially as busy you are, and stay competitive. I think those two questions kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just starting out in this sport, I mean, you need to get with a group of people, and I love our local clubs. I mean, MSKA, West Virginia Kayak Anglers, Southwest Virginia, Jason Plumley and John Rapp and Ben. And I mean, get involved with those groups, because those are great places to start, and they have affiliations with most of them have affiliations with like KBF or, organizations like that, where you can, test the water sometime. I think that's a great place to start. Get you a cheap kayak or get you a good kayak, just as long as you're on the water. It doesn't matter. Get around people who with knowledge and just, get in their heads, make them explain to you. So what was the other part of your question?
Yeah. I mean, that was basically it. And how do you maintain, regular life and stay so competitive with you?
Yeah.
And I will, before you answer that question, because I think this would be something I noticed today. I don't know if you caught the weigh-in at the Bassmaster Elite Series there on St. John's. I think you did, and I hope you did. And if you didn't, check that out. We had a rookie win the daggone thing. A rookie goes out, wins it. Brian knew, and you saw the emotion in him, and there was something really unique to me with the reaction he had up on stage. And, you run up and you hug your family, and you see anglers pick up their kids, and they have that, obviously, I can't even imagine, emotional roller coaster that they're on up there receiving that first, especially for him, the first trophy. But I looked at his interaction with his wife, and you could tell obviously they were happy, but dude, he backs up. You saw it if you watch it. And we're not talking just a hug. He throws that hand up and they high five. Like you could tell this has been years of work, and the support with them too. It was an accomplishment for both of them. So how do you balance that?
Well, first of all, I'm lucky that, my wife and I were empty nesters. I mean, our kids are moved out and doing their own thing. And that support, that's what you've seen on that stage today when you've seen that.
Yeah.
It's support. And she supports me wholeheartedly. At any given time when I'm fishing a tournament, I could get a text from her, and she will have everybody's numbers. This is what you need. You need to go. You need to call this. You need to do that. I mean, she is on it. And that support, I couldn't do it without it.
Yeah.
Because I know how much that I love her. She knows how much she loves me. And it's important that we stay in each other's lives that way, because, when I'm out on the road, and I'm out on the road a lot, but when I'm home, I'm home. I'm home with her. You can't separate us when I'm home. That's the way we are. So I have a lot of time away from home, but what time I am home, it's quality time. We spend it together,
That's awesome. And
we look forward to being together.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and that's it. And to not, it's one thing to have someone supporting you, whether it's a friend or family member. Every angler out there doing this, Chris, Brad, Chase is on the line listening in, myself, anytime we go out there, when you do this long enough, the people that stay around you know that's what we do. So obviously the support's there, but there's that extra, there's that extra when someone's calling, texting, updating.
I think I'm fortunate. Yeah, I'm fortunate. In fact, she cheers me on. I mean, she don't just support me. She is enthusiastic about what I do, and but that sums it all up. You have to have a support network. You can't do it on your own unless you are a loner, and you have nobody else in your life. But that's not going to happen, because you're always going to get support from friends.
Yep.
I think the way you carry yourself, if if you have integrity and honesty and you show character, I think you're going to draw good people to you. And those people also help support you, especially when you're out on the road. You know, if you have a breakdown, there's always going to be somebody there for you. If you're having problems with something, somebody's always going to be there. You know, my buddy Corey Dreyer, and we do this a lot. We know when each other's getting aggravated, you know, and we talk each other back off that ledge. You know, just focus, man, get refocused, get out there. And you got to have that. That's the kind of support you need when you're out there. And you also need the kind of support, you know, from home. That's the balance you look for. When I'm home, I am busy. I do other things when I'm home. You know, I'm working, you know, on this building here, and I do a few other things. But most of the time, it's, you know, we're just doing something together. But you got to have support. If it's not, you know, entirely from home, you need it out everywhere, every aspect of your life. You need some support.
Yeah, man. I love it too. I mean, I love listening to. Of course, I follow along with all these different podcasts. Live video, Facebook lives, you name it, YouTube lives. I've seen you on a lot of different stuff, and I just love hearing that. I love hearing about the support. I love hearing about the passion from everybody, from all sides. It's just exciting because we are at a point now, guys. I think you all could agree that, you know, here we are, Bassmasters live on Fox Sports 1. You know, here they had quite a few hours on over the weekend. Major League Fishing's live stream, and we got Hobie that live stream an insane amount of coverage for these events. KBF is the same way. So it's extremely exciting to see where we are at this point.
Yeah.
And we can only go up from here. Brad, Chase, Chris, anybody got a question for him of the crew? I know we've all just kind of been sitting, just listening attentively. Yeah, there's an insane amount of info, but man, Brad, you got anything to add as a bass boater?
Yeah. Well, I'm like you said, I'm a bass boat guy, Jody, and congratulations there. You got a lot of hardware and a lot of hard work put into all that stuff to earn the respect that you got. And
it's definitely a job. Yep.
Yeah. You know, and just, you know, bass boats tournament trail's been around for decades, you know, and it's very popular in itself, and it gets crowded, especially in our small bodies of water around here. What my question is, I think there's a comment about it when it comes to practice, because the kayak fishing trails and tournament scene has exploded in popularity now. How do you break down prepping for one of these bigger tournaments when you know maybe a certain area will be crowded, you know, well known for that time of the year, or even the local smaller bodies of water? Does that, you know, I know you got to have a strong mental game. Does some people don't mind, you know, rubbing elbows while they're fishing, you know, because you know, hey, I'm gonna catch them behind you. So
yeah, I've been in both of those situations where, you know, there's some people that I hate to fish behind, but you know, you find yourself in situations like that sometimes, and it is what it is. And in the kayak community, we've kind of pretty much resigned ourselves to understanding that there's going to be people where you're at. With the advent of the motors, you know, where KBF allows motors, though, it spreads you out a lot more. You can usually find those spots. You know, if I'm breaking down a big lake like Guntersville, you know, it's 66 miles long. It's got creeks going off everywhere. It's got grass beds here. It's got rock bank here, riprap. You know, most of my time, you know, pre-Ernie, you know, is going over, you know, topo maps. I'll pull up Google Earth, study the history of the lake, you know, at different levels, see where I can find things. Now I spend, you know, a few hours doing that. I have spent more than that, a day or two sometimes. It's according to, you know, where I'm going and what's going on. But, you know, there's a lot of information out there on the waters that most of us fish, like Guntersville and Chick.
Right.
And another thing, and I'll allude to, you know, Chris was talking about, you know, what happened in 2018. And you know this too, man. It's just you get familiar with these bodies of water, and you start seeing patterns in areas and fish. And so every time you visit that body of water, you know where you want to try, you know what those fish like, you know.
Right.
So the experience of being on the water also helps you, you know, it helps me place. I mean, I have a little better understanding and knowledge of the waters we're fishing, and I think that helps me out a lot when I go to these lakes. But yeah, we got to share the water, man. You know, I was fishing the national championship at Guntersville, and it's still a mixed bag of emotions. You know, from some boaters to kayakers.
Yep.
Yeah, we had one guy that you know, he come in on top of a buddy of mine, and my buddy said, "Hey man, you know, I'm fishing for 75 grand. This is the last day. I have a chance to win this. I'm in third place. You know, would you mind giving me this bank?" And the guy looked right at him and said, "Man, I drove 6 hours to get here. I don't care about your tournament."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, and that happens too. And, you know, and the rules that are set forth through KBF and DOS and all that is the sportsmanship rules. You can't tell that guy, "Hey, buddy, you're a craphead," you know, and I'm climbing the boat. And, you know, you can't do that. You say, "Well, hey, man, I understand," and you go on. Does it make you mad? Yeah, it does. But the next boat you come to, I mean, I have some guys from the Army League that they were doing the Armed Forces tournaments. They were doing a guy come in Army boats. I was fishing a big grass bed, and they pulled in pretty much right on me. You know, wasn't probably 30 yards from me, and I was just making a circuit around this hump in the middle of the lake. And when I come back around, I said, "Hey guys, how you doing? Are you catching anything?" You know, just brought up a conversation. I said, "Well, you know, I'm fishing the tournament. I'm sitting in 6th place in our national championship. Would you mind if I had this area here?" And they said, "Oh yeah, man, cool. We're just pre-fishing. Right. You go right ahead. We'll pull out and let you go." And so you get both kinds. You hope for the latter and hope not, you know, for the first, but you know, we also have to be respectful of the big boats. I don't know if you guys ever seen the what's his name, Blaine, where Mark Daniels pulled in on him down on Sharon Harris, and he's like tucked over in the corner. He's, you know, he says, "Man, fish through," and Mark Daniels catches that 7 or 8 pounder in there, and he's like, "Hey man, that's in the kayak world. We need those reputations, man. I mean, we need to be able to show that we respect the boaters that are out there. They're doing the same thing we are, just in a little different way. But we're all there for the same thing. It's the competition. It's the camaraderie. You want to win. You know, it's just gotten bigger. So we're you know, we're going to have to, you know, we just got to be aware that they're there for the same reasons we are, you know.
Yep, I fully agree on that, Jody.
I've had balance, man.
Oh yeah. We definitely need to keep working on bridging that gap. Yep,
we do, man. And I'll tell you, my buddy Corey Dreyer. I mean, dude, I've talked to some of these guys in these boats, and I've actually had them come up to me and say, "Hey man, what are you catching them on? I mean, you know, I just seen you catch 2 out of this place. I just came through there and you just pulled 2 out of there." That happened to me on Kentucky Lake, and I'd say, "Hey man, I'm catching on this right here." And those guys are fishing those tournaments. They're fishing BFLs, you know, and my buddy Corey, he's down fishing right now. He's fishing the Toyota Series.
Nice.
He's fishing Guntersville this week. So we need to tune in and give him a big hand if you guys,
yeah, man, and I think they shoved that. They postponed that back one day. I think
they did.
Yeah. So definitely
he called me
along.
this morning. He said they postponed.
Yeah, follow along there at Major League Fishing Toyota Series guys, for sure.
Dude, Russ Snyder's, he's got a reputation in Clear Lake in California on the Delta out there. The bass boaters out there is like, that dude is mean, because he started out in the big boats. A lot of these guys have that history in these kayaks. And I mean, the wealth of information goes both ways. I mean, let's hook up together and, you know, and talk these things out, and we might learn something from each other and learn what's, you know, how to share that water. Let's do it. I'm all for it.
Yep. Heck yeah.
Well, Chase, man, let me give you the floor. I know you're kind of hiding behind the scenes as a collegiate angler, you know, and kind of transitioning into what the next step is. And I know you've even reached out to me, Chase, talking about a little bit about the kayak stuff. You know, man, what would it take to hop in there and maybe give a couple of them a shot? I mean, what would your question be if you got one, Chase?
Man, I've just been hiding back here, just minding my own, listening to Jody, because this is a whole new plethora of information for me. I don't know much about the whole kayak scene, so it's kind of cool to learn up from probably one
It's
of the
all right,
best in
man.
the kayak industry. And I don't even keep up with it, so which is wild. But yeah, I have a question that actually came through on the in the chat. And Aaron Finney actually submitted a question. He said, "How do you break down how do you break down how you practice for an event?" Which to me is kind of interesting to me, because you can't just run all over the place in kayak. So how do you do you break down just one small area? Like, what is the best way for you to practice? What's the best way you
Well, the
found to
first thing
practice?
you've got to do is, the first thing that you absolutely have to do is you have to know your limits as far as how far you can travel from a put in. You need to know what kind of area you can cover before you try to go. If I don't want to sit in at a ramp and have a place 10 miles down the lake, oh man, I'd love to fish that, and there's no access to it. So you have to know what your limits are. If it's a Hobie tournament, then I have to know how far I'm going to be able to pedal at the end of the day. I need to know that I'm not going to be broken down by the time I get back to the ramp. Dardanelle was like that. I had a 2.5 mile run, but I knew I could do it pedaling. But you need to know, what kind of time that you want to spend looking for eliminating the water. So I'll find a ramp close to an area. I'll look a lot of times like Google Earth and in my maps and stuff, and I'll say, well, I want to fish this area here. There's a ramp here. Can I do it? And if I can, I'll go and I'll concentrate on that area. In a kayak, and I've seen the guys make this mistake a lot. If you're in a kayak, we talk about, as opposed to being a boater where you can pick up and run 30 miles, in a kayak, you can't do that. And you have to be really careful about how hard that you hit these areas, because you can, even though the fish are there and you're not really hooking all the fish that are in there, you sit there and catch 10 out of them and you still see them on your graph and they're all in there, and you're like, hey, when you turn those fish loose, they build up lactic acid, and there's a whole host of variables that goes into when they get back in that school, what can happen to them. And I've seen guys go in and catch, find a big school. Oh man, I'm on them. I caught 5 or 6 out of there, but there's plenty there. And those fish go back to that school. The next day you get there, they're gone, because they know something's wrong. So you have to be real careful about those areas that you're fishing. I have a couple chatterbaits that I have completely cut the hooks off of them, because they got those real nice strong keepers on them, and that elastic doesn't come off, and they look just like a regular chatterbait. I'll throw that chatterbait, and if I get hits on them, it doesn't tear the fish up. I pull, if I'm in a small area and I know there's fish and I'm working on getting fish, I'll pull the worm out of their mouth, or I'll just let them swim with it. Or a good example of that, me and Corey was fishing a Kentucky lake last year. I think I won that. I won that tournament. It's a BOS tournament, and we were fishing an area at the mouth of a creek. It was a small area. We knew there was some fish in there. We didn't know how many, but we was in there, and we would hook them. The water was so clear, they would bite the bait, and we just keep pressure on them, and they would swim up. We could see what size it was and everything. When they see the boat, they'd spit it. We spent 2 days in that small area. By not hooking those fish, we were able to go in there and do really well in that tournament. Just break down water, find the ramp, know where you can go. If you're looking for certain areas, like if you're looking for humps or grass or rocks, find those ramps that are close enough to it that that you can get to them. Break it down by working it. Just go through and graph it. Jay Wallen's a great example. He'll go through. I've seen him go through and spend 4 or 5 hours and never cast a rod. He'll go up and down the bank. He'll do all his mapping. He'll go in. He'll go to these other areas and find out drops. He'll find ledges. He'll find humps, underwater, cover and stuff like that. And then he'll go through and say, well, I found fish here, and he'll drop something here, drop something there, and maybe catch 1 or 2. But you got to be real careful about that. So the time of the year will dictate a lot. too, about what you want to be. If they're spawning or just right before the spawn, they're in a heavy pre-spawn, they're going to be moving up on shallow flats. They're going to be, they want something with cover on three sides. That you're going to have to find that kind of area. And those are the areas that you want to, try to find the ramps close to. Don't put in at a ramp full of bluffs and big rocks and stuff.
So let me ask you something, Jody. It seems like you really seem to be able to take something from everyone it seems like you have an encounter with and apply it and learn from that. And it sounds like it's really helped contribute to some of your success.
It has.
With that, what we just saw happen on Lake Seminole last week in the Hobie BOS tournament. What if you find yourself in a tournament this year where you're sitting at 98 inches and it's a 2-day event?
Yeah.
Are you now start to second guess yourself as far as backing off fish based off of what we just saw happen? Or, what's your stance on how all that played out, and what are you going to take and learn from that situation? For the people who don't know, that's just tuning in, the 2-day Hobie event last week, the person who was leading most of day one had 98 inches before 9 a.m. and decided to leave his area so that he could come back on day two. And he did. And he came back on day two and put up 103 inches and killed it. But he ended up losing that tournament by a couple of inches. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts on that are and if it's going to impact how you fish in the future.
That's very rare that something like that happens. To be able to get those bags 2 days in a row at the same area, unless it's a big area and you found a lot of fish, it rarely happens. I was fishing the Pro Tour last year, and in 45 minutes, I had 101 inches in one spot. The spot wasn't no bigger than 40 yards across and 100 yards long. I mean, it was crazy. I had 26 pounds in 45 minutes basically.
Holy moly.
And and then when I went back the next day, those fish weren't there. So what you do when you're in these situations, I found a big school of fish. But never put all your eggs in one basket, man. Always, when you're pre-fishing, you need a backup. And if you've got time, get a backup for your backup. Always have that secondary spot that you can go to. And if you can get a tertiary, you get that too. Those guys, I don't know if it'll be a long time before we'll ever see anything like that again, man. I mean, can you imagine having 201 inches in a tournament and losing it?
No. That'd be
That's some crazy stuff, man.
That's insane, dude.
Those guys were hammering them, dude.
That guy lived in, I think, Minnesota, so that was a long ride home, I bet.
Yeah.
It was worth it for him, I tell you that. I mean, it was almost 10 grand for first place, and then I think second was up there too. I can't remember what it was, but we had a tournament in the KBF when I first started fishing this, and it was on St. Clair, and I don't know if you fished that one or not, Chris, but we got up there on St. Clair, and I had like 92 inches, 93 inches, and I was in 9th place. I mean, everybody was smashing 4 and 5s and 6 pound smallmouth. I mean, they were all in these big spawning areas, and it's just there's times when that happens. But if you get in an area that that there's fish, and if you're graphing them or you just know they're there because of the time of the year, and you caught a big one there, and you can see, and there's a lot of things that play toward knowing and having that confidence in a place. If you know it, lay off of it. If you know you got to have a 4-day tournament like I just had down here in Florida, I needed a place that I knew that I could go for 4 days and catch fish, and I knew that I couldn't find it if I went to a place and I just had a group of fish that I had to fish out. It wasn't going to work, and that's basically what happened to one of the leaders down there. He had a nice little canal, and it was a small area, and he found some big fish in it. He caught them on day one, and that was it. And I've seen that happen so many times. Remember Sammy Pugh, man? Dude, he got in there, had 100 inches. Of course, he had some bass boats come in out on that national championship down there. That didn't help him any, but he had 100 inches that day, and then the next day, anything can happen in that 24-hour period. So you better have backup. Find it. Make sure that you get another spot that you can go to. It may not be as good as that spot, but always what I shoot for is get that 83 to 85 inch range. If you can hit that range, you're going to cash a check usually, or you're going to win. And if you can consistently hit that 83 to 85 inch range, you're going to have a paycheck most of the time.
Man, that's a pile of info. Chris, what do you think, dude? I mean, goodness.
I got one more for him, but I'll wait a second if you want to check the chat again.
Man, I tell you what, I was just reading through a few of those things. What is it now?
I said I'm gonna pick his brain as much as I can while I have him.
Dude, I'm telling you, and
dude, you can just call me.
And Jody, and we do appreciate it, man. And you talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
And you know, I started out fishing big boat stuff, bass boat tournaments at the club level, you know, and kind of got my feet wet there and transitioned over to the kayak scene and was lucky enough to make a few national championships. The biggest payday I ever had a chance with, bombed with making a huge mistake and breaking a rule first before I even made a cast. So it's a mental game.
Happens to all of us, man.
Dude, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And I think a question that a lot of folks have, and Chris has hit on this a little bit, and we've kind of bounced around it too, of what it takes to get going, what it takes to be competitive, and there's no set plan. We do know there's tools. You know, torpedo, game-changing. Truly, that word can be used for a torpedo, game-changing. We saw the video, you and Corey just blasting off that Scott film. Insane. So we know the tools are there to help us. Electronics has come such a long way. But I think one of the biggest questions, and Chris, me and him kind of pinged off each other, and I hope this isn't his question, but even another person asked, you know, Corey Patrick's asking about how long do you throw a bait before you change? He's got confidence in a jig. He's got confidence in the topwater. And maybe some of these anglers, I don't know Corey right off the top of my head personally, but great question, Corey. But in a general aspect, you got a ton of people looking at this sport, a ton of new anglers, just like Greg had said earlier, joining West Virginia kayak anglers. How does a guy like that feel like he can come in and be competitive? And I always compare it to golf because any angler can come in any day and spank the crap out of everybody. There is some luck that plays into fishing. We all know you got to have things go your way. But man, give me just what would you tell one of those anglers?
I had that question once before, and you know, my answer to some of that question is, you know, I can learn from somebody that I've known that's been in the sport 6 months, and I can learn from somebody that's been in it for 6 years. There's always something to learn from somebody. Everybody brings their own thing to the sport when they're coming in. We just don't know everything, you know. We try to do our best by, you know, being informed with all the knowledge that we can get on an area and doing this and doing that. But there's always that local guy that comes in and says, "Hey, man, this is my spot right here." You know, and he'll go in there and he'll whack them. And, you know, it don't matter how many times you've been there or what, that's going to be there. You know, consistency is earned by working for the knowledge. That's what we work for, consistency. We want to be consistent. Yes, we want to be consistently number one, but that's unrealistic. You're not going to do it every time. But we want to be in that top tier, that top 10, you know, that top 5 as much as possible. If you're just coming into the sport, bring those baits that you are already comfortable with. Keep them on your rods. Make sure your equipment's in good shape. Find a good line that you have confidence in. And when you're breaking down water, know from information that you've gleaned from others, you know what attracts fish at different times so that you'll know which one of those baits to throw. Now, here's something that I do that helps me. It doesn't mean it's right for everybody, but I'll take Like when I'm getting ready to go to Watts Bar, I know the water's cold. I know it could possibly be windy. However, they are saying that the sun's going to come out on Saturday, but during pre-fishing, it's going to be cold. And I know from information I've gleaned throughout the years that I'm going to slow my presentation down. I know that I'm going to probably use a smaller bait, and I'm going to work areas with deeper water first, adjacent to maybe spawning areas, because I know that they're getting ready to move up and spawn. Nature has these fish in a certain pattern that they go through every year. So they're going to do the same thing every year. It's just, you got to figure out where they're at in that pattern. This time of the year, like I say, but what I will do is when I go into an area that looks like it's a top water area, I'll throw the top water. And if the top water don't work, before I leave out of there, I'll throw some plastic in there. Before I leave out of there, I'll throw a chatterbait in there and see what gives. If I get a hit on a chatterbait and nothing else, then I'm going to take that chatterbait to the next area and I'm going to use it and see if I get a hit there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can narrow down the baits that you use. They might be hitting 2 or 3 different baits, but they're going to probably hitting that one bait a little better than the rest of them.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to take your poles. And when you're in an area that looks like top water, work it to death with that top water. But before you leave, go back and throw a jig in there. Drag a Carolina rig across it. Drag some kind of plastic across it. Crankbait it. Whatever. Find out what it is. The fish will tell you what they want.
I love that. I love that kind of insight and advice. I mean, we've all been out there at some point. Just think back, everyone watching. If you watch us later, think back. I remember many times where it was prime time, pre-spawn. Fish are pulling up. They're feeding on the bank. They're doing their deal. They're really trying to line some stuff out. You go find a grass edge. And you're going to find fish. You can just go down and flip around. You're going to catch a fish.
So Shane, I guess the answer to the question is, I mean, he asked, how long do you throw a bait before you decide that you're not going to use it anymore? I guess it's how long you throw 3 or 4 baits before you figure out, hey, I've got to change it completely, because it's not that one single bait. Give them all a whirl, and let them do the things where the places that you're supposed to throw them. If you're on riprap, pull that crankbait out and pull that thing across them rocks. You can also drop a spinnerbait down on it, bust the tops of them rocks. You can throw a chatterbait, let it bust the top of them rocks. Do the things that that the baits are designed for, and let them tell you, when not to throw them. And if you've got 4 or 5 rods and they're rigged up and you're in those areas, use them until you're satisfied that nothing's going to hit. Move to the next area, move to the next area, move to the next area. Use those same 4 or 5 baits till you figure it out. That's how you break the water down.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember flipping in on one tree. I mean, we've all had that instance. You flip on the same tree. You pick it apart side to side to side to side to side. When you make it around that other side and you get that bite and you catch it going off of, you're thinking, dude, I just pitched. That fish had to have seen that bait all around that fish until you got that exact angle. So I think that speaks volume for sometimes too, especially when the bite's tough. You got to remember.
So I watched Skeet Reese today move into a little pocket. But on his way in, he's throwing a chatterbait like it ain't nobody's business. As soon as that boat bumps that hyacinth pad, he pulls up a plastic, a jig, and a worm, and runs them both through there. He's using the baits that are designed to work those types of areas. When he's in that area. So that's the way you break it down.
Yeah, man.
So,
love that. Yeah. Chris, what do you think, brother?
Well, been a wealth of knowledge. This has been a really good interview, Jody. Appreciate it.
Man, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
I'll kind of, my last question's around, right now in the kayak tournament scene with the 3 main players as far as the Hobies, KBFs, and the BASS. We're still at the point where I think someone could really, I know you're still able to do those and try to compete for the Angler of the Year or qualify for the 10 without having a lot of sponsors. But we're slowly migrating to where, just like in the professional boat world, you really need sponsors to really make a run at some of this stuff. And so my question is, for the people that are watching tonight, that's either new to it or maybe he's been fishing for a while, but haven't really dove into the sponsor field. I think that's it's a balance the way you approach that. I know success brings sponsors, but also what if you're an angler that hasn't experienced a lot of success to date, but you want to try to pursue some sponsorships? I mean, what have you learned over the years? I mean, you're extremely well sponsored angler now. What kind of advice would you share on how to approach that with companies? What's the right way and what's the wrong way of doing that?
First of all, never go after a sponsor whose product you don't use. That's probably my number one rule of not what to do, what not to do. Find the products that you really rely on. If you rely on Lowrance, or if you rely on a certain rod or a certain line, take that product and support that company by hashtagging them. When you're doing your hashtags, let's say for Instagram, use the hashtag, use the @ symbol, because it goes directly to them. Their marketing department will see that. Believe me, if you hashtag Z-Man with an @ symbol, they are going to know it. They got people, they pay somebody to watch for that. So, keep doing that. It took me probably, from the time that I won the Hobie BOS on Washita, I really started going after Z-Man. I started, it took over a year for them to actually, I think Drew Gregory actually said, "Hey man, when are you going to, get in touch with Jody? I mean, he's been really pushing your products. It's not going to happen overnight. Push that product and, write a letter to that sponsor. Say, hey man, I just want to tell you, I'm really, really, really stoked about your products. They've done this for me. Go to one of their lines and drop a picture off and say, hey, this is what I caught on your product. This is how I use your product, and I appreciate it." And then once you've built a rapport with someone there, if you still want to pursue that company, write a letter. Don't give them a big long jumbled. They don't care about everything in your life. They want somebody to tell them, hey, this is my name, this is what I do, this is how I use your product, this is what I can do for you. And you can do that in a couple pages. Tell them a little short biography of yourself, what fishing means to you, and send it off to them. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a response, because they're going to look back on all those hashtags and those ats, and they're going to say, this guy's serious. He really likes our product. I think he's a good representative. Carry yourself, guys, with character and integrity. That goes a long way in this sport, I'm telling you. Also, there's you've talked about this, Chris, and I know you and I, we think pretty much on the same wavelength on this. Is we're at a point in this sport where these sponsors are really watching it. There's 3 big series right now. We are a niche market still. We're just in the grand scheme of things, but we're growing. We've come so far that you can't ignore us.
Yeah.
So Z-Man and Minn Kota, Motor Guide, Lowrance, Daiwa, all these companies who aren't really super invested into this market, they're watching it. I promise you, they're watching it. They're watching the people in it. So what happens is when we have these new guys that are wondering about these sponsorships and they're coming into the sport, what we need to do is we have a responsibility to tell these anglers, hey guys, come on in here. This is a great sport. We need to show them the ropes. Because the more people we have in this sport, the more notice that they're going to take us, which means bigger purses at these places. You're going to have bigger paid sponsorships. We need to, and this sport is by no means saturated. It's going to keep growing. So if the anglers that are out there in the spotlight a lot, like myself and Russ Snyder's and the Cody Miltons and Corey and I could just sit here and rattle off. There's 10 or 15 of us that are we're consistently out there doing something for one of our companies or making, we have a responsibility to carry ourselves just as with as much character and integrity as we're asking these guys to come in with. So if we can do that, it makes the sport look good. It draws more of those guys in, more of those like-minded guys that carry themselves right. It gives them more chances at sponsorship. It gives us more chances at sponsorships, and it grows the sport. So, I prove my information because I want people to catch fish. I want them to come in. I want them to fish these tournaments. I don't care to go fish a tournament that's got 300 people in it, because if it keeps doing that, it'll adjust. It'll say, okay, guys, this is a 3-day, 300-person tournament, but we're going to have a cut. Last day's 50 people. Believe me, the sport will adjust itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get them in here. Let's get them in here and teach them the ropes and get them to learn how to represent yourself. That's why I'm free with information. That's why I can blow up an onion sack and talk your ears off all night, because I'm passionate about it and I love the sport and I want to see more people in it, because I think it's better for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah,
really
I agree, man. I think we all win. We all win as anglers, whether you're a bank fisherman, a bass boater,
Absolutely.
a kayaker. It doesn't matter. And you said it earlier. We all share the resource, and in the grand scheme of things, we are an extremely small number of the folks out enjoying the outdoors and the resource in the water. So I think everyone should be holding themselves to an extremely high standard. I know that we get in conflicts with pleasure boaters or this, that, and the other. That's always going to be the case. We can't even go on social media without getting along with people. Just posting what you ate for dinner. Let's be honest. So
5 years ago, Shane. 5 years ago, I'm just going to interject just for a second here, and I'll let you
please
carry on. I can tell you in those 2 weeks that I was down in Orlando fishing the 10, and they had 2 other trails in the 10 Invitational. Just from KBF, they probably gave out maybe total probably $50,000-$60,000, and then the next weekend was over here at the Hobie BOS, and then that was a 10 grand first place basically, and they probably gave out 40 or 50 in a week in the kayak. Just those 2 series, there was probably 100 grand given out. 5 years ago, you wasn't going to have that.
No,
you were lucky to get $1,500 for placing first.
Yeah.
It's we're growing, and it's going to get there, and it's going to be, the more we do what we're supposed to do, it's going to start being exponential. It's like a little thing. It's like a snowball. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but it grows bigger faster if we have more people into the sport. So, and
it kind of defines a path. I think when that happens, it truly defines a path for these guys. We've been talking about them all evening. It gives you a path to start out, work your way up through that local level. It could be instead of a whole region, they could be breaking those regions up in small regions. Like you said, everything will adjust out in the long run. It has to, because that's just the way things just work. Show it, Jack Hammer. What's the collar on that bad boy? We got a gold blade on that thing,
You see that right
too.
there, boys? That right there is the Brett's bluegill, and this right here is a diesel minnow in breaking brim, and that's what I won the 10 with.
I'm taking pictures.
And I'm telling you, man, they work. Anytime, summertime when the bluegill nest, these things are absolutely deadly, dude. This is a diesel minnow golden boy, and I usually use them when I'm in the wild shiner lakes. Any lakes that have the shiners in it, the golden boy on the golden shiner jackhammer, they produce. I'm telling you, they produce. Just give them a try. But anyway, that's what I caught my fish on when I was down in Florida.
Hey, man.
What on, Jody?
Huh?
What rod and reel are you throwing those jackhammers on?
Well, that's kind of tricky. I'm using a prototype from Cashin right now that Corey Dreyer and I we're working on. It's still in development. We're hoping to have something out, soon, but we don't want to put it out there before it's ready. And right now, we're just tweaking it a little bit. But the blank is perfect. But if you don't have a Cashin rod, they have a chatterbait rod that's really good. Whatever rod you get the medium heavy. I'm talking about grass, guys. I'm not talking about throwing on a big flat with rocks and you're bumping it across the bottom. That's glass rod stuff. But if you're in heavy grass, like I like to fish, and if you go back and look at some of my posts, man, I mean, it looks like I've got carpet underneath my boat where I'm fishing these baits, and people are like, I can't believe you're throwing a chatterbait in that. But use a good medium heavy, extra fast to fast tip, 7'4", which will limber that tip up just a little bit. You know, if you're in the 7 foot range, it's going to be a little bit stiff. But if you get a 7'4" and a medium heavy fast, what happens is, Chris, is in these heavy grass lakes like Chickamauga and Guntersville and all the lakes in Florida, when you're in that heavy hydrilla, when you're casting that chatterbait out there and you want it to tick that grass, well, it's going to hang up on you. If you watch me fish a chatterbait down in Florida in these areas, you'll think, well, the guy's aggravated because he just keeps yanking it out of that grass. But that's what it's supposed to do. And what happens is if your tip is too limber, like these glass rods that a lot of these guys are using for these chatterbaits, when you cast it out there and it hangs up in that grass, and when you go to pop it out of that grass, which is when a lot of times a strike happens, if your rod's too limber, it just hangs up in the grass and won't pop loose. If it does come loose, it's usually bringing a string of grass with it. That's a wasted cast.
Yeah.
So you don't want that wasted cast. You want that bait to work all the time, even when you're in the grass. So if that stiffer rod, when you go to pop it loose, it's got more force and it pops it out quick. And those fish will hit it when it pops out. Just pop it out, let it drop a little bit, start your reel again. And a lot of times those fish will hit on that thing. And if your rod's too soft, you don't get that kind of action with your bait. The presentation is off.
Yeah.
You throwing a faster reel?
I'm throwing an 8-3, and I'll tell you why. I'm throwing an 8-3 to 1 because when you're in a kayak, and you know this as well as I do, you're almost constantly moving. So with a 7'4" rod and you're and a fast reel, it'll compensate for you moving forward and those fish running towards you when they hit that chatterbait, because they do that a lot, especially this time of year. I don't know what it is about the pre-spawn or the spawn when they're on the nest. They'll come up and hit that thing and run right at you like a bolt of light. And if you got that fast reel and that big long tip, it gives you a longer sweep, and it'll give you can catch up with that slack a lot quicker. So an 8-3 to 1, medium, heavy, fast reel, and I'll throw all my chatterbaits on 17-pound test, either Tatsu or Vanish. I mean, I can use Vanish. I've used Vanish for years.
I love Vanish, dude. I'm right with you, brother. People laugh, but I love it.
Years. I know people laugh, but when you get up in that
dude.
17-pound class in that Vanish, it's good line.
Yeah, man.
But
it is. It's
17-pound test, when I'm in Florida and you got that rougher grass down there and you're into the line, I use a 20-pound Tatsu fluorocarbon, all fluorocarbon. I don't use braid on mine. I always use fluorocarbon.
Shoo-wee. I mean, dude, I can't tell you how much I know we appreciate you sharing that knowledge with us. I mean,
I love it. I love it.
We all gain from it, man. We all gain from it. Chris, I'll give everybody a chance. Any last words? Chase, I'll give you. I know you and Brad been patiently waiting. Chase, any last words for Jody before? Man, he's been gracious enough. We know we try to keep everything in an hour, but goodness, we could talk fishing for hours, all of us. Chase, any last words?
Oh yeah, you know it, man.
Yeah, I got one last question. Will we ever see Jody Queen jump up in a bass boat and fish some tournaments? Will we ever see that?
It's a possibility.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll make a proposition. Anytime Jody's ready to hop in and fish any event, my boat's sitting in the driveway. I won't get a chance to fish, and I'll bring it to you, and we'll drop it in the water, brother. You can run with it today. Absolutely.
Hey,
I think it'd be fun. I would love to see it. Throw a kayak guy. Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. I think that'd be a blast. It's sitting right there, and we're gonna make that happen. That's killer.
Hey, I mean, if Jordan Lee and Mike Iaconelli can come to the kayak world, why can't we go to the bass world, the boat world? You know,
Absolutely.
I got a buddy fishing Toyota series right now. You know,
absolutely.
I got tickled at Ike, man. We was up there at the Susquehanna. You was up there, wasn't you, Chris?
Yep.
Did you get at the Susky when Ike fished up there, and he come up to me and he said, "I have got a lot to learn." He said, "I have got a lot to learn." He was humbled.
But
He said, you guys are crazy.
I think you really enjoyed it too, though. I think.
Oh, he did, man. And he was just as humble. I mean, he had great humility. And I mean, I fished with Ike a couple of times down in Georgia, and I've been on his show a couple of times. And man, he's a nice guy. He's just like us, dude. And those guys up there, they was like, man, Alcanelli, he's coming. I said, dude, he is sitting at home, nervous, wondering what he's going to use, how he's going to pattern the fish, he's changing his line. And he is doing everything that we're doing before a tournament.
Yeah.
He's just a guy. Just go out there and fish. Don't let that stuff get in your head. Focus on what you're doing and keep the rest of that stuff out.
Yeah.
Because it takes away from what you're doing. Yeah. But he's a good guy, man. I love it.
Love it. Super cool. Brad?
Hey, now I just want to say congrats, everything, Jody.
Thanks, Brad.
For the show, man, and keep working hard and representing the state well, and we'll keep working, bridging that gap with the kayak and the boat guys,
yes,
man.
Absolutely. Let's do it, man. We'll set a precedent that makes them do it.
All right, buddy.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Chris, you've been around Jody probably more than all of us. I've been in and out of the kayak scene. He's taken plenty of my money. That's for sure. In a lot of the tournaments I've fished against him. But man,
I've lost a lot of money too.
Well, I think we all can relate to that. And if that is your only, we've talked about this, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but if that's the only reason you're in this is to, man, if you're gambling that last $100 to go fish, don't do that.
You're doing it for the wrong reason.
It is the wrong. We do it for the passion. I think we all can agree.
That's right.
We could agree with that.
Absolutely.
It does something extra for us. Chris, any last words for Jody before we let him go?
No, other than when he was being so generous with his information earlier, I was trying to put together a fake Facebook profile really quick and come on and drop a comment asking for the GPS of the Susquehanna.
Hey, get with me before we go up, man. I'll put you on some good spots.
I'll holler at you.
It might not be my spot, but I'll put you on some good spots.
I'll holler at you. I'll be back up there for the Hobie again this year. That was
good, man. Hey, that's a good one, man. I love it up there. I'll see you there.
Yep.
Holler at me, dude.
I will.
Jody, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your time away from your wonderful wife that is a supporter of you and everything you're doing. So I know she might be in the background telling you what to say. I don't know.
Well, she came in and gave me a thumbs up a while ago, so I guess I'm doing okay.
I love it. Well, dude, honestly, man, any last words? And if somebody wants to follow along with your journey, what you got going on, I know you put out a ton of information to help that next angler in line. Where can we follow along?
Yeah, the more that you get on and follow what I'm doing, the more I can help you. So, I mean, if go to my page at Jody Queen Fishing on Facebook. If you see something you like, I mean, I don't want you to like it if there's nothing there you like. If it can help you, if I can help you, I will. Give it a like. Go to Jody Queen Fishing on Instagram and give it a like and a follow. And I mean, I appreciate everybody's support. Catch, Z-Man, DZ Fishing Online, Cashing Rods, Yak Attack, Hobie, Dakota Lithium, Torpedo. I mean, all those guys when I say their names, they have helped me be where I'm at right now, and I couldn't do what I do without them. So all you new guys coming into the sport and you're working on those sponsors, it gets easier. I promise you, it gets easier as you go along. And just keep carrying yourself well and go give my pages a like. I need all the followers I can get.
Well, buddy, you got it. Everybody, you heard him, Jody Queen. He was gracious enough. Here we are, Valentine's Day weekend. Valentine's Day, it's late Sunday evening. Everybody's wrapping up their weekend. Give his page a like. Go over Jody Queen Fishing Facebook. If you forget that somehow in that amount of time, shoot me a message. We'll get you over to his page. We'll leave a link in the comments, dude. Jody, we appreciate your time, brother. You're welcome here anytime. And like I said, look for a future episode. We're going to get Jody in the boat. Just send him out in a tournament. Let him have at it. Man, we appreciate it, dude. I really appreciate it, man. You have a great evening, brother.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
See ya. Guys, talk to me. Holy smokes. Jody Queen, man, it's nice. It's nice when we have somebody on. He's one of our own. Chase, if thank Chris shared that link to Jody Queen Fishing's page. So on Facebook, follow along. He puts out a ton of information, and very graciously. We know that's not always like that. Wow. What an episode. You know, I watched a bunch of his other interviews with different podcasts, different things, different lives, interviews at events. He never ceases to amaze me the amount of information he's willing to throw out there for us to all enjoy. That's exciting, man. What do y'all think? I mean, that was awesome.
I enjoyed it. If you didn't learn something from that, then man, that was just so much good information for not only new anglers, but guys that have been, fishing in kayak tournaments since the beginning. So, a lot for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, 100% agree, man. There's plenty for everybody to learn off of that. And like Jody said, the crazy thing is you're going to learn something off of maybe that angler that's just starting out. I promise you, if you hang out with somebody long enough that's even first starting out, you're going to pick up something. And that's exciting for the future of the sport and everything we got going on. You know, it is truly exciting for sure. Wow. So what's coming up? What's coming up over the next few weekends? Chase, anything going on? You want to give us a little quick fill in on? We still got Jody in the chat room there. So if he ends up bumping out there, we might bring you in there, Chase. But man, what's coming up over the next couple weekends?
Well, we got the Elite Series coming up in a couple weeks, but I just want to touch back up on the Elite Series from over the weekend. What a tournament! I mean, just an insane tournament. We hit the first day, big fog delay, and it kind of messed up the fishing. Weights real low, and those guys all said it on stage before they came up. They said this thing's gonna turn wide open, and Buddy did it, turn wide open. Live was real fun to watch. Got to watch it on Fox Sports 1, and then we watched the rest of the evening on Bassmaster Live on Bassmaster.com, and it was incredible.
Yeah, man. Awesome weekend for to kick off the kind of the professional season, I guess you could say. What is it? What we got? MLF big events coming up, kicking off here in the next couple weekends, I believe.
I believe we have the Red Crest.
Yeah, Red Crest is kicking off, I think, in a few weekends. Yeah,
Red Crest will be the 22nd. So we got literally a week from now.
Yeah, and of course, you can follow along with everything Jody's got going on too, Chris. A couple events coming up there. We had hit on there earlier. Next weekend? Heading to what Jody was just talking about, Watts Bar. Hobie's kicking back off. Second stop.
Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting tournament. The weather that's coming through that area over the next week. I mean, Hobie put a post out today saying if you don't get a chance to pre-fish a lot of the events, this is the perfect tournament because everyone that's pre-fishing is not going to develop a pattern that's going to be consistent with what's going on the day of the tournament because of the weather that's coming through the area. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, man. And then going straight to Murray the weekend after that. Yep. So KBF's just kicking right back off and moving along. So there's a ton of stuff that's going to be going on over the next few weekends. I know our tournaments around here, Fishers of Men, shout out to Dustin Dennis. That is actually labeled on Facebook, so you can look them up. But everyone's heard of Fishers of Men Tournament Trail Organization. National Tournament Trail offers some phenomenal opportunities for anglers. Of course, this is West Virginia, Ohio East Division. So they have an event coming up here in March. So one of the first tournaments of the year. I will give everyone a shout out and a heads up. WVDNR.gov. Get on the DNR site. They have updated all the tournament permits currently. Finally, Brad, we were talking about that. And that's, let me rephrase. I don't want them to think that I'm complaining, but that's a pile. That's 300 plus tournaments easy. And I was just thumbing through saying 25 per page, but easily 300 plus tournaments. And that's everything scheduled up through June 19th, I believe. So June 19th, it's up on the DNR site, DNR Fishing main page. You can click fishing tournaments and all of that information is there. They're not all opens, but if you have a question, reach out. Reach out to Brad, Chris, me, Chase, any of us. I've had quite a few people reach out over the last couple weeks. We've set up multiple kayak anglers for the Bass Nation kayak qualifiers here in West Virginia, and hopes of qualifying for the state championship. Continue to reach out to me. We'll find you a club. We're shoving people in clubs, finding them a club as fast as they kind of give it that information, trying to help you out as much as possible. If you're wanting to form a club, they have to be done by March 13th. Okay, all those dues are due March 13th. So, I mean, we got conservation projects going on. Again, Bass Nation, West Virginia. Jared Harmon did post that they reschedule that. A lot of nasty weather coming in. So instead of the 20th, that will be at Tiger Lake the 27th. Want some more information, reach out to Jared Harmon, Conservation Director, Bass Nation of West Virginia. Goodness. And I know we're always missing something. But, Brad, anything, brother? I know we're just waiting on tournaments to fire up. We're ready.
No, it's still pretty waiting up here. You know, everything's froze over or what. But no, just real quick before we sign off, probably over the next day or two, if anybody's traveling around this region, please be careful. A lot of nasty weather coming in, some heavy snow, a lot of ice. Maybe make a phone call and check on some of your elderly friends, maybe, or something like that. You know, help them out. So
I like it. Well, guys. We're going to stick around here for just a minute, but everyone tuning in, thank you. Genuinely, thank you. The feedback has been awesome since we've kind of restructured, brought on the live show crew. We've had some amazing guests thus far, and we're going to continue on. It's all about supporting our local anglers, recognizing them for their accomplishments, recognizing our trails, recognizing our state. It's time to bring some attention to West Virginia and the tri-state area for everything our anglers are doing. And as you see, multiple show after multiple show, we got phenomenal anglers right here doing big things. So thank you all for tuning in. Any questions, concerns, just give us a shout. But you can always find us here on Facebook, Adult Talk West Virginia, and on YouTube. Everything is cross-posted right over there for you for your viewing pleasure if you're not on Facebook. So thank you again. We'll see you next round. We'll see you on the water.